Hi, it's Karen. Today we're doing the Guilty Reader book tag. So this is I don't do book tags that I actually like book tags very often. But I've seen this one going around. It was created about a year ago by Chammy over at It's Chammy? Is that Chammy? Sorry, I will leave her channel linked down below. This is a series of questions about guilty things you might do about when you're reading. Let's go. I have my iPad with the questions, so let's get started. So the first question is, have you ever regifted a book that you've been given? And I don't think I've regifted as such. I have definitely taken books that I've been given as a gift to an op shop, but I haven't wrapped it up and packaged it and handed it on to someone. Things tend to just sit on my shelf for a long time, and then I pass them on if there's something that doesn't get read right away. But also, I was a kid that never really received books as gifts, so except from family members, and I gave them a list and they were picking from, so I was like the kid with a wish list rather than any kind of books as gifts. Potentially the only time I would have regifted was when a friend and I won books for a prize 2 years in a row at school, and they gave us the same books, which were two different books, both years. So we switched over the second time, so we both got both books. But that doesn't really count. Have you ever said you've read a book when you haven't? This, I guess, is a little bit of I haven't really. I've never said, I've read this, when I knew I hadn't. It wasn't that kind of lie. It was never a lie. But I would, when I was working in the bookstore, use recommendations and reviews I'd heard from other people to hand sell titles. So I would never say I've read this, but I've heard a lot of people talk about this, I've heard it's really good, I'm really excited to read it, but directly in a one-on-one conversation with the customer. So at times they may have thought, if I didn't go into the full backstory, if I wasn't saying, oh, one of the co-workers read this, or I've seen reviews about this, if all I said was, this is supposed to be really good, or this is really good, maybe a customer might have thought I'd read it when I hadn't, but there was never any intentional lying. I should turn on the light. The next question is, have you ever borrowed a book and not returned it? I don't think so. Except for books that were kind of a loan, kind of a gift. Here is a book, I don't expect to see it again. And then I wouldn't necessarily, especially as a kid, get it back. There was a book that I borrowed from the library when I was about 6. I think it was a Goosebumps book that the library had on record for my whole primary school years that I never returned it, but it was literally nowhere in our house. I could have sworn I'd returned it. It disappeared. But I'd made every intention to return it. I thought I had, but apparently I didn't. Have you ever read a series out of order? Yes, both intentionally and unintentionally. So I read the Chronicles of Narnia in narrative order, not publication order. The bind-up that I had did that, so it was a logical process. But also the what are they called? The Chronicles of the Imaginarium Geographica. I'm pretty sure I read books 3 and 4, or maybe 4 and 5 out of order. What's on the back of book 5? Oh, really? I don't know how I screwed this up, because this one has 2 books on the back. This one has 3 books on the back, that you can buy beforehand. But for some reason, I remember reading these not in the correct order and being very confused, and then reading the next one and going, oh, this is round the wrong way. So I don't quite know how I did it. I was about 15 at the time. I think I just had a total lapse of judgment, and there's no numbers specifically anywhere, just this previous books on the back, and I think I just didn't logic very hard there, so I read them in the wrong order. But I did go back and fix my mistakes. I reread the book I'd read out of order. Have you ever spoiled a book for someone? I'm trying to think. I think I may have unintentionally. but in a conversation in which they were wanting hints but not wanting to have spoilers kind of thing. And so I'm not very good at walking that line and figuring out where the boundaries are. I also have definitely in the past probably talked more about a book than I should have, and I have also definitely spoiled people intentionally when people say, tell me what happens at the end. I've definitely done that. Also, my mum used to always ask me for plots of books when I was growing up. Whether or not she'd read them was another question, but she'd often get me to talk through the plot with her, I think to test my comprehension in an informal kind of way, to show I understood what I was reading. And so she was surely spoiled for a whole lot of things, but she didn't let me spoil her for Harry Potter because she forced herself to, she didn't let me read it until she'd already read it. She spoiled me almost on the big end of 6th book. Have you ever dog-eared a book? I think probably, but I don't make a habit of it. It's not a thing I do as a course. It would normally be by accident, like if I threw it in a bag and it got busted. But what I do very intentionally, because I can't stand it otherwise, is if my book isn't floppy, I will crack the spine. So, for example, this book had no give in the spine, so it's fully cracked the whole way along. This happens a lot to me. It's the same with Uprooted by Naomi Novik. If the pages are too thick and the spine is too solid, I'm gonna crack it. It's just gonna happen. I don't like myself because I hate how it looks afterwards, but I can't read if I don't have a certain amount of space between the words and the center of the book. And it's just, it's a compulsion. I can't not. Have you ever told someone you don't own a book when you do? I think if I have, this would only have been because I knew someone who I wasn't that close to was angling to borrow a book. I don't think this would happen very often, but I was known as the reader. So if someone was angling that I didn't really know to borrow a book, maybe I might have said I didn't own it so that I didn't feel compelled to share and then not get my book returned when I was a kid. But overall, I'm pretty comfortable owning up to all the books I have on my shelf. I don't have any crazy secret-y ones. I have a whole bunch of romance books that aren't everybody's cup of tea, but I just don't recommend them to people. I enjoyed them, it's fine. Have you ever told someone you haven't read a book when you have? Again, no, I don't think so, unless it was by genuine mistake. I did go through a period in high school where I was reading a lot of things from my school library, and I would not be able to tell you what half of those books were anymore. I've never owned them. They're probably one in one ear, out the other, unless I came across them again and decided to read, and then went, oh, hang on, this is familiar. But so I don't think I've ever hidden any book I've read from anyone. I read Twilight, everyone did. I've even read 50 Shades of Grey, part of it, but I read it ironically, so whatever. Have you ever skipped a chapter or a section of a book? I would say generally no. It's not something I do consciously or plan to do, but I am almost certain, I have this conspiracy theory that when Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix first came out, that I read the first maybe third and then got incredibly bored and put it down with the every intention of picking it up again, but then got distracted by other things. But then I thought I'd finished it, and then it wasn't until I went back to reread leading up to the release of Half-Blood Prince that I went, hang on, I remember none of this. What is happening? What are you all talking about? And it was at that point that I clicked that maybe I never finished it in the first place, even though I'd gone around telling people I had unintentionally. So I guess maybe I have said I'd read a book when I hadn't. It was an accident. I thought I'd read it. Just saying, that is still my least favorite Harry Potter book to this day. To this day. And the last question is, have you ever badmouthed a book you actually like? I don't think so, other than books that I have a love-hate relationship with. I'll badmouth Twilight, but I know I can also speed read the whole series in 3 days straight. But it still has so many flaws. So I'm genuinely critiquing its flaws, but I know I can still, it's addictive, so I still flew through it. So, and I badmouth Hunger Games, again, for a similar reason. There are things I don't like about it, but there are other things I do like, so it's a love-hate book. Yeah. So not in a way of like talking bad about a book fakely. So those are the questions for the Guilty Reader book tag. I will try and think of some people to tag below. Go check out down there if you want to see a few names there. I'll try and remember to tag some people on Twitter too. I think I'll tag leabex if she hasn't already done it. And we'll see who else I can find. But anyway, let me know if you've done this tag. Send me your video, put in the links down below, and I'll check them out. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Keep an eye out for a reading vlog from me this week for the Newts Readathon. Otherwise, I'll see you next time with another video. Bye!